It's official. SVG is heading to the NASCAR Cup Series full-time in 2025 with Trackhouse, and a surprising car number. But which 5 cars are still left open on the grid for 2025 in NASCAR, and where do we expect drivers to land in these 5 rides? Let's break it all down today on Shifting Gears.
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for? Me?
Can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
He's going! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
Oh, silly season. It's ever evolving, ever changing, and yes, we have a bigger puzzle that just came into existence this weekend because of the SVG announcement. Welcome on into Shifting Gears. I'm Alan Bailey. Make sure that you mash that subscribe button before we get into the 2025 silly season news, and of course, make sure that you go ahead and log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. First off, big thank you to everybody over at Team Chaos and Overton Speed Shop. Massive 1-2 victory for us in Daytona in NIS this week. So cool. Sweeping Daytona and, of course, being undefeated in NIS at Daytona is pretty darn cool for myself. So thank you all for watching that stream and supporting Team Chaos with the link in the description. Let's go ahead and start with the changes that we know, starting with Joe Gibbs Racing. We know that Chase Briscoe is going to be taking over the 19 for the retiring Martin Truex Jr. Denny Hamlin's contract is good to the end of 2025. So is Christopher Bell, at least that's what we believe. And Ty Gibbs is the grandson of the owner. He's not going anywhere. Briscoe signing a multi-year deal. We expect Briscoe to at least be competitive in this car. They should be contending for championships right out of the gate. At least that's why Gibbs and Toyota hired him. Over to Hendrick Motorsports, no real changes among the 5, 24, or even the 9, but over at Alex Bowman, his contract is up at the end of 2025. Supposedly, they're already negotiating with him for an extension, but nothing is set in stone yet, and there's always the rumor mill of who's taking over the 48, simply because a lot of people on the internet think that because Alex Bowman isn't rattling off 3, 4, 5, 10 victories a year, that he's on his way out. I think he's secure. I expect him to be in this car long term. I expect no changes at Hendrick for 2025 and beyond. Over at 2311, Bubba Wallace is not signed up officially for 2025 yet in the number 23 car. We do expect that announcement to be coming soon. Tyler Rennick supposedly is back next year in the 45 car. Again, no changes there, I don't see. They are adding a third car. The current rumor is that it's going to be the 67, maybe even the number 50. Riley Herbst is still the favorite to take over that car, bringing over his Monster Energy sponsorship with him. Now, over at Penske, again, no changes with the 2, the 12, or the 22. Over at RFK, no changes with the 6 or the 17 for 2025. Supposedly, they're going to run the 60 car, a third car over at RFK part-time. There are rumors that this car potentially could go full-time without a charter. We could see another charter team added into the fold. The current contract is a very interesting, fluid situation, and for now, nothing is set in stone. Over at Trackhouse, we do know that the 1 car of Ross Chastain signed to the end of 2025. The 99 of Daniel Suarez signed a 1-year extension, good until the end of 2025 with his sponsors over there, and they made it official today. SVG is going to be taking over the number 88. It's a little bit of a surprise on the car number there for SVG, but he's going to be in the number 88 for Trackhouse, a third car that is chartered coming from the now defunct or will be defunct Stewart-Haas Racing. Current crew chief for Zane Smith is going to be his crew chief up in the Cup Series. This was to be expected. I knew that this was coming. Everybody knew that this was coming. Zane Smith was let go a few days ago from Trackhouse, and it seems to me like Zane Smith was the plan for this third car over at Trackhouse until SVG decided, no, I don't want to just do this part-time. I want to come over to NASCAR full-time, and then Trackhouse obviously prioritized the guy who has championships, who, no offense to Zane Smith, has a lot more driving talent, I think, and is the better move. I do think that Zane Smith could have had a home in this car had SVG not come along, but I do think that Zane Smith does belong in the Cup Series. We'll get to him in just a little bit. Over at RCR, we know that Austin Dillon's going to be back in the 3 car in 2025. Supposedly, Kyle Busch is going to be in the number 8 car in 2025, although it's very obvious that he wants out. He wants to find a more competitive Chevy team or a team in general to be with. Talking about RCR after 2025 for 2026 for a moment, I do think that Jesse Love is being groomed to take over the 3-car full-time. I do think that that is the goal over there. Assuming that Kyle Busch signs an extension and stays in the 8-car, I think that that car is going to be his for as long as he wants to race in the Cup Series and over at RCR. But who takes over the 8-car if Kyle Busch leaves or when he retires? I think that's Austin Hill's car, honestly, once Kyle Busch decides to hang it up or leave RCR, whichever comes first. But I do like Jesse Love taking over the 3-car. I think that he's a guy who honestly can rise to that occasion and live up to the legacy that Austin Dillon frankly has not throughout his entire career. Haas, which is now a 1-car organization coming out of the now or soon to be defunct Stewart-Haas Racing, going to be keeping the number 41, and Cole Custer is back in that number 41. Honestly, they're going to get some more support out of RFK. That's going to be kind of a satellite team. And frankly, I do think that they're going to run top 15 here and there. I do think that they'll rattle off a couple of top 10s with Custard. I do think he's a better driver. He's got a lot more confidence coming into the Cup Series next year than he ever has before because of his Xfinity Series championship last year. And I do think that they're going to be a serious threat at some point down the road, especially with that RFK help. Over at Front Row, which is now taking over the kind of spot that Stewart-Haas vacated this year, being one of the Tier 1 Ford teams, along with Penske and supposedly RFK. They're expanding to a 3-car organization. Noah Gragson moving over to what we think will be the 34 car. The number 36, a 3rd car, is open over there at Front Row, and we know that Gilliland is going to be back in the number 38 car next year. I like this team. I really do. I think that they're going to come together and really show us something next year. They've honestly had some really competitive runs this year and for the last couple of years. And I do think that once Noah Gragson gets over there, he's going to hopefully continue what he was building this year with the 10 car. I'm hoping to see everybody on the 10 car kind of shift over to Front Row and kind of more or less keep that team, that 10 car going. I think it'd be best for everybody over at Stewart-Haas with the 10 car and over at Front Row moving forward, but we're going to have to wait and see. They might be changing their numbers around. They said that they're kind of looking at number options for next year, but right now 34, 36, 38 are the numbers that they're supposedly running, and supposedly Zane Smith is going to be taking over that number 36 car. I expect that announcement sometime within the next week or two here, honestly. This is one of the cars that is officially up for grabs, one of the 5, and I think it's Zane Smith's. He won a championship in the Truck Series with this organization. He went Cup Series racing with them a couple of years ago and wanted to be there full time, but there just wasn't enough room in the stables. Now there is, and I think he's going to go back home over to Front Row and potentially contend for a championship somewhere down the line. Over at Spire, a bit of a surprise. They are going to be bringing in Michael McDowell. We knew that, and he's bringing over his crew chief over from Front Row. Hocevar has been setting the world on fire in that 77 car, quietly having a really respectable rookie season, and obviously we know that Corey LaJoie is not going to be in the 7 car next year. A lot of rumors have Justin Haley going to this organization. He did win them their first Cup Series victory years ago at Daytona. Honestly, I feel like Haley found a home over at Rick Ware, and I don't see that pair breaking up. Rick Ware definitely really wants to keep him, really wanted him, and I think that Haley valued that and saw the writing on the wall with RFK really supporting that organization. And frankly, I think Haley's being groomed to take over the 6 car whenever Brad decides to retire. But the question is how much longer is Brad going to be behind the wheel? At least another 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know. It depends on how competitive he is and how he feels physically over the course of the next few years. Other than the Haley rumor, there's no real definitive person that's in line to take this Spire car. I would honestly hope to see Kyle Busch in the car. There's a lot of rumors that Spire is essentially writing a check to RCR to get Busch out of his contract for next year so that he can jump into the 7 car. He does have a very good relationship with Spire. He sold his Truck Series program and building to Spire, ran some truck races for them this year and won some truck races for them this year. It's not going to be that dramatic of a shift for Kyle Busch to jump over to Spire, essentially working out of the building that he built. It's going to be a little bit weird for Kyle Busch if it happens, but I think it's something that Rowdy Nation really needs. No real changes over at Legacy Motor Club. Jimmy Johnson going to continue to run a partial schedule from what we understand, but the details haven't been hammered out, aren't announced yet because they're still working on sponsorship dollars. Over at JTG 8G Darty Racing. We know that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to be back in the number 47 car, but they need sponsors. They're losing their main sponsor, and there could be a name, brand, team rebrand because of one of their owners leaving, to be determined on that one. Over at Rickware, we know that the 15 is available at the moment. We know that Haley is supposedly signed through the end of 2025 for the number 51. Ryan Preece is a name that I'm hearing for the 15 car, but so is Kaz Gralla, who has run about 25 races this year. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I think that Rick Ware really likes the idea of bringing in somebody else full-time and letting them more or less compete for the championship with Haley. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that other Rick Ware car. Kaulig didn't really surprise anybody when they announced that A.J. Allmendinger going to be returning full-time to the number 16 car in 2025. He was there full-time last year, didn't exactly have the best showing, but did win a race at the Roval, and I think that that's kind of an obvious one. A.J. Allmendinger is going to give you a shot realistically to win about 5 to 10 races a year between the road courses, between the super speedways. He's a no-brainer for me, honestly. If I'm starting a Cup program and A.J. Allmendinger's available, I'm signing him. Putting him in the 16 car makes a lot of sense. It means that effectively Kaulig is going to self-fund the number 16 car next year, more or less. Daniel Hemrick is in the number 31 right now. Will he be back next year? Depends on how big the check is, and I'm being serious, no offense to anyone here. Hemrick bought that ride. He brought sponsorship dollar in. He's not getting a penny from Kaulig right now. It's all coming from sponsor dollars, and maybe Hemrick's going to be back next year. I don't see his sponsorship well drying up, but Ty Dillon was rumored to be in the number 16 car full-time this year, actually, but sponsorship dollars fell through, and Dillon decided to go truck racing instead of Cup racing, and I think he's starting to regret that a little bit. I think he's looking around going, what else is available out there? And at the moment, the 31 car is. Now, that brings us to the Wood Brothers, the final team on the grid. Josh Berry over to the Wood Brothers. I feel like it's a massive improvement for the Wood Brothers. I feel like it's a massive downgrade for Josh Berry. I don't see this team being competitive next year. I see them struggling. I see, frankly, Barry being the scapegoat, and I hope that's not the case, but at the same time, they could find some magic in the bottle, and Barry could be the missing component, and they could go out there and dominate this year. I just don't see it happening, but I want to hear from you. Who do you think is going to be in the third 2311 car? Who do you think is going to be in the third front row car? Who do you think is going to the 7 car, the RFK car, and the Kaulig car? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below, and while you're there, make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video, and of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.